Greetings to my friends and my spiritual children around the world. I thank you so much for been watching these programs every night at 10 o'clock Indian Standard Time, and I believe you are blessed by these teachings. It is our bounded duty, our God-given responsibility to teach our children, to learn for ourselves. And God has personally given me this call about teaching on Christian marriage and family. Because you see, today, almost every person who say they are in a relationship, an affair, having an affair with somebody, they're so scared to get into marriage. So that means they are having a relationship problem. And there are some people who had an affair and got married, but then after marriage, they are still having problems. So there is another relationship problem. And there are some people who have been married and they are divorced. So you see there again another relationship problem. And there are some people who are scared even to get married. The very thought of marriage is scary to them. See, so in every way we find people having relationship problems. So when I was thinking about this, in my 30 years of personally as a pastor in this ministry, I keep meeting people, and every people that I meet, either they have a family problem or they have somebody in their family who has a problem in every way. And I see the devil just ransacking the Christian families today. And why he does it? Because when he breaks up the Christian home, when he tosses up the nest, when he tries to destroy the peace and happiness of a Christian home, it reflects on the church. And when the church is destroyed, it reflects on the nation. And so his goal is complete. Today I tell you, friends, our politicians do not have the answer for our nation. Whichever nation you are living in today and watching me, whichever country, whichever state you are living in, the politicians do not have an answer for the nation. It is you and I, children of God. When we pray, we can change the destiny of this nation. And for us to pray, we need to be in a good surrounding, a happy family. And when we have family problems, when we have relationship issues, when we feel so depressed, we are not able to pray for others. The first question that comes to my mind, what can I pray for others when I myself am having a problem? So that is why the devil doesn't want you to pray. And most of all, he doesn't want you to pray as a family, because he knows the power is multiplied there. It's multiplied to such an extent that he cannot stand against it. And that is why he destroys the Christian home. The two institutions that the devil hates, one is the Christian home and second, the church. And these are the two things that he tries to destroy. So we are going to study as the days go on about this marriage. Okay, so we are going to see people who are married, they are so frustrated. They have lost their joy. They have lost the hope of, of life, and they have issues. But they don't show it out, some of them. Some of them end up in divorce. Some of them, even though they have an affair, have a relationship, they don't want to make it to the altar. And some of them go through it. They don't want to show it out. They just put up a smiley face. They put up an act, but their life is hell on this earth. Okay, so why has this happened? Why is this thing happening? For some people, it would rather have been better for them to be single than to be married. He could have been single, could have been single and be frustrated. At least they have an hope that someday they will meet somebody. Maybe if they are frustrated, feeling lonely, feeling so depressed, they could go out with somebody, just go out for a cup of coffee, just go out for an ice cream, just have a nice, good evening, just to relax the mind. But when you are married, you have no hope. You cannot go out with anybody. You have to stick to your married partner, and then you go through what is called hell. But this was not marriage that God designed for us. God never designed us for us to get married and then say, I wish I hadn't got into it. Okay? So God designed marriage to be a blessing. God designed a Christian home to be heaven on this earth. We should reflect how heaven would be. And that is why in Ephesians, when we read about husband and wife, we see Jesus compares himself to the husband. He compares the church to the wife. And then we see what happens in heaven should happen here in our home. But why it doesn't happen? You know why? One of the reasons is we got married because we thought we loved the person. We got married to that person because they said they love us. And we ended up getting married, and later we found out you do not know, or they do not know what they really meant by love. When you said I love you and you got into marriage, you did not really know what you meant by love. When they said they love you and got married to you, they did not know really what love was. Okay? So I want to tell you, love, as I already told you, is just a chemical reaction. We will study it maybe tomorrow in detail about it. Okay? But today we want to see how come our parents, our grandparents, 100 years ago, our parents would have told us stories about our grandparents, our great-grandparents, how they stuck through it all their lives. They spent 50 years of marriage together, 60 years of marriage together, 70 years of marriage together. What made them live together? Definitely it was not because they loved each other. Okay? Because you could have heard stories how your grandmother went through everything, had to put up with everything. It was not just love. Maybe they loved each other. Even we love each other today and we get married, but yet we are not able to keep up with them. What made the difference? It was not just love, but at that time it was something that we call respectful dependency. But life is not the same like it used to be 100 years ago. Okay? In those days, 100 years ago, your grandmother had no option. She could not go out of the house. She could not work. She could not earn a livelihood. So she depended on your grandfather. He was the breadwinner. So he used to go out, he used to work, and he used to come. So she depended on him for her bread. And then your grandfather depended on your grandmother because he was not able to keep a house. He was not willing to take care of the children by himself, to cook a meal, to clean them, to do all these things. 100 years ago, if your grandmother was not there, he would have to look after the 7, 8 children. And that was not, that was not his bread. He did not want to eat that cake. So he depended on her to take care of the home, take care of the children, bring up the children, keep a tidy home. When he came home, he was welcomed with a hot cup of coffee, just sat at his easy chair, handed over the newspaper. He just sat there on that lazy boy's chair, enjoying his coffee. She knew he had gone out, he had worked all day, he was tired, and so she respected him. And then she had a hot meal waiting for him. So she respected that his work, and then he understood, that she kept the house, kept the children, took care of it. It was a dependency, interdependency. And that is what made them to go through it. If your grandfather was not a right person, if he was, giving attention, mistreating her, physically abusing her, she just went through it. She had no other go. But friends, it's not like that today. The world is a different place. Today we women, we go out and earn. We go out and work as same hours like the men. We earn sometimes more than the men. When he goes out to work, you also have to leave to work. Sometimes you have to leave before him. And then when he comes back tired from work, you also come back tired, sometimes later than him, after him. So now, your husband, or you men, or you husbands, you cannot expect your wife, to come home and at once run to the kitchen and make a hot cup of coffee and welcome you. Times have changed. Don't say my grandfather used to do like this. My grandmother was, used to treat my grandfather like that. You forgot that your grandmother was in the house all day. Even though she did her housework, even though she looked after the children, even though she had all the things in the house to do, she could, sometimes just stretch out her leg and relax. She could take a quick nap. But today it's not like that for your wife. She has to be at the office. She should be dressed up. She should be smiling. Whether it pained or ached, whether she had physical pain, whether she had mental stress, she should be smiling before her authority. She cannot go there and say, okay, I'm tired, I just want to, take an half an hour's nap. No. So you should understand that it's no use you comparing your wife today to what your grandmother used to do or how your grandmother used to take care of your grandfather. Okay, so then we find we love each other, but the stress of today's economical world, today's way of living, it's a different thing. The stress shows on us, and that is why, although we say we love each other, we say, but I cannot go on with him. I cannot go on with her. I cannot live in the same house with her. The ability to live with her is lacking in me. Every person that goes through those divorce papers, those sign the paper says, I still love them. The love is there. The feeling is there. But the ability to continue, I can't. I don't know. You know why? Because you depended only on love and entered your marriage. But there is something else that we studied yesterday in Proverbs 27. It says, a home is built with wisdom, and its room is filled with knowledge. So what wisdom was this writer of the book of Proverbs talking about? We studied about from chapter 19 of Matthew, where Jesus himself, we could call it, it was one of the pivot teachings of his knowledge, extraordinary knowledge, his hidden wisdom about male and female relationships. And so we are going to read those chapters once again, because this is our key passage that we are going to study on marriage. And it is Jesus himself, the Son of God, God himself, who came in flesh and spoke to us in all his wisdom about marriage. And in this one passage, he deals with three issues. He deals with singleness, he deals with marriage, he deals with divorce, he deals with remarriage. In the same passage, he deals with all these issues, and it's good that we study it. Okay? Nobody can say, I finished reading it, I know about it. It's loaded. It's loaded with information for singleness, for marriage, for divorce, for remarriage. It is loaded. Okay? So let us study. The Pharisees also came to him, testing him and saying to him, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any reason? See, even here, they were so biased, these men, that they come and say, is it okay if we could divorce our wife? They never asked, is it easy, is it okay, is it lawful for a husband and a wife to divorce each other if they had any issues or for any reason. They never put that word there. They only said, is it reason for a man to divorce? That means even at that time, a woman had no authority, had no right, had no freedom, to take the first step. So Jesus looks at them, and Jesus, they ask him a question, and usually when a person asks us a question, we would expect an answer to the question. But Jesus, he did not deal with the question. In fact, he was not even interested in the question, but he went directly to the matter. He went to the substance. He went to the reason behind that question. Okay, and he says, and he answered them and said, have you not read that he who made them, he's talking about them, he's not talking about the male. He did not say, in the beginning God made man, and man has this right and that right, or this. He did not talk about man. He just straight away said, in the beginning God created them at the beginning, made them male and female. He said, you're talking about a relationship. That's what he means. You're talking about a relationship that involves a male and a female, but then you're asking me a question only about a male. What happened to the female? See, Jesus in all his wisdom, he beautifully gives them an explanation. And he said, and for this reason, a man shall leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. He's talking about intimacy. In a marriage relationship, this is the most important thing, the intimacy, the priority in marriage. See, after you get married, leaving the father, leaving the mother. Sometimes we leave the father, leave the mother physically. The distance is far away. Maybe I live in India, maybe my mother lives in America, or maybe vice versa. But the mental contact is there. I counseled with a married girl once, very well educated girl, earning very well. Okay, highly educated, I can say, very well placed in life, coming from a very rich family, God-fearing family. But then a marriage never worked out. You know the reason? Because every day, every action that her husband took, even though he was an educated man, even though he held a good job, they lived in Australia, the parents lived in India, but for everything, even if he had to take his wife for a dinner, he would phone and ask his mom, "Mom, I'm planning to take my wife for dinner, can I?" He would phone and ask her, "Tomorrow is a birthday, what can I buy her for a birthday?" Wouldn't it be disgusting? You do not know what you want to give your wife. Okay, so see, this started out or kindled the fire in the family. You may be far away because of the distance, physical distance, but mentally you are still the mummy's boy. Okay, so here he is dealing with this problem. He says, you two become one flesh. When you were a baby, when I were a baby, the only person that seen us as we were born, in our naked state was our parents, our mother mostly. And then the next person that seen you in that state was your spouse. But then intimacy or becoming one is not talking about just fleshly intimacy, physical intimacy. There is something like mental, emotional intimacy. We are going to study about that in future, okay? So you become one in the flesh. Okay, this word one, we are going to study about this word one, okay? And then he says, so then they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let not man separate. We have mistaken this part so much that today, when we talk about love, the first thing is we are talking about something called eros love, a fleshly love, a carnal love, a sexual love. And that is why you get married on the basis of your feelings. You say, I love her because you were excited. Okay, it's called the adrenal inside of you. It's a chemical. When you see somebody's beautiful eyes, when you see her beautiful eyes, when you see her beautiful hips, when you see her breast, you got so excited about it. The adrenal inside of you started to, just kick up. And you got excited about it. And you mistook that to be love. And you decided, okay, I want to marry. I cannot be without her. But after a few years, the looks change. She puts on weight, so her hip size change. Her chest size change. Because of, feeding children. Her eyes become little dull. And now, every time you see her, the reaction is different. It's not kicking. You don't find those butterflies flying anymore inside of you. So then you think, I don't love her. See, that is why I say love is not the basis of foundation for your good, successful marriage. Because the word love that we use is not the word that God really meant us to use. We do not know the meaning of love. There are different explanations for love, and we will learn that maybe in a few days or maybe next week. We will see about that. So anyhow, whatever you mean by love, we really don't understand that word. And don't marry a person just because she said she loves you or you said you love her. Okay? Don't marry for that sake. You must learn. We need wisdom. We will go on to see what Jesus said. Because Jesus is talking here. See, when they're asking a question, Jesus said, don't you know? What are you saying? You need to know. You need to get information. You need to get knowledge. And that knowledge you must learn how to apply it. And that is wisdom. That is why he said, don't you know how God created it? Because we do not know, we are messing up. Okay? We do not know. God created the male and female. Male is different. Female is different. Any woman can get along with another woman easily. Every man can get along with other man. But for a female and a male to get together into a relationship, it's different. So in the process of time, through learning, we have to do it. But don't get married and then start trying to learn. Okay? So we're going to see about that in a few minutes. They said to him, they said to him, why then did Moses command to give a certificate of divorce and put her away? At once they say, but Moses told us, Moses gave us permission. And Jesus said to them, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart. He said, you are so ignorant, you are so hard, you were always talking about yourself. You were making Moses answer you in a way that was favorable to you. You know, we can do that. Even when you read the scriptures at times, when you read the Bible at times, we try to make the Bible talk to us. We try to make the Bible say what we want it to say. That is why you see people when they preach also, they just take verses from here and there. They don't read the context. They don't see who wrote that, why it was written, for who it was written, how will it apply to us today. They don't say anything. They just take a verse and they use it. I can give you many examples. For example, we say, I look up to the hills from where cometh my help. At once we take a board, we write that verse as a promise verse and we keep it in our house. I look up to the hills from where cometh my help. What a wrong meaning. If you are just going to put that single verse, you took it out of context. Because the psalmist says, I look up to the hills. And he says, from where cometh my help? It's a question mark. And he ends that with a question because they thought their help came from Mount Zion. Jerusalem was surrounded with mountains. And the people who wanted to worship God, especially after Israel, the 12 tribes were divided. The southern people had the temple, but the northern people did not have a temple. So when they went to worship, they just tried to go to some mountain, sacrifice there, worship there. So he says, I look up the hills, but from where comes my help? A question mark. And the next verse says, my help cometh from the Most High God who created heaven and earth. See, that is where the help comes from, not from the mountains. That's what he means. But we got it wrong because we read it and we just said, we look up to the mountains. Every heathen goes up to some mountain looking for help. Do you think we have to go up to some mountain? No. He says, I can look to the mountain, look to the river, look anywhere, but my help cometh from the Lord. See, when we take a verse out of context, this is what happens. Some people have in their house, from this day I will bless you. Only that verse is in the house. From which day, we do not know. Every day you look at that and say, Lord, from this day, that's the day you had a big quarrel in your house. That's the day you did not read the Bible. That's the day you did not pray. That's the day maybe you had a drinking party in your house and you say, Lord, from this day. No. If you read the book of Ezra and Nehemiah, Nehemiah comes back and tries to rebuild Jerusalem, build the walls. Ezra comes back and he finds the scrolls and he tries to build the lives of the people, the spiritual lives of the people. He reads the scrolls to them who have, the scrolls were lost. They have never read it. It's been years since they read it. They are reading the scrolls and then they cry out and say, Lord, we did like this, Lord. They have married foreign women. They have intermarried with other people, heathen people. They have not circumcised their children. They haven't, offered sacrifice. They have not given the tithe. They haven't lived according to the word of God, to the Torah. And so they cry out to God. And then Ezra says, okay, we are going to fast, we are going to pray. And he gives instructions to clean themselves, send back those foreign women, circumcise your children, cleanse yourself. And after everything is done and they come, then he says, from this day the Lord will bless you. Have you left all your bad habits? Have you surrendered your life totally to God? How could you say from this day? See, this is what I'm trying to say. When you take a verse out of context and you do not know the meaning of it, you mess it up. The same thing is happening here. They take a word out of context and they say, but Moses gave us a certificate of divorce. And Jesus goes on and says, he said, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, permitted you to divorce your wife, but from the beginning it was not so. He said from the beginning, the God who created in heaven and earth, he never gave you that. Don't say that Moses gave. Because this was favorable to him, they caught hold of Moses. Okay? And then he goes on to say, and I say to you, whoever divorces his wife except for sexual immorality and marries another commits adultery. I explain this, committing adultery when you marry another person, even though you say, I've got a divorce paper. My case is solved, I've got divorced. If your partner is not yet married to another person, if they are not, you have left your partner because of sexual immorality, just because you think she's sick or she's not good looking, you don't like her anymore, you can't keep up with a temperament anymore, you just leave her for reasons like that, and you say, I'm divorced. But in the sight of God, you are not, brother. You are not sister, you are still married. God sees you as still husband and wife. The court, an unbeliever, an heathen who has his own personal issues, who has his own family problems. Maybe he has changed 2-3 wives, or she has changed 2-3 husbands. They have their own issues, and that person is coming and signing a paper, and you say that God has cancelled your marriage, and you go out with some other person, sleep with some other person. That is an adultery, because your marriage is still not cancelled in the sight of God, and you are going out with somebody else. Okay, then he goes on and he says here, and I say to you, whoever divorces his wife except for sexual immorality and marries another commits adultery, and whoever marries her who is divorced commits adultery. If she is divorced also and come and you married her, you are committing adultery. See, I'll tell you the reason now why we have problems in our marriage. Some people say a man is a complicated person. A woman is also equally complicated. Okay, so we say she's very complicated, I cannot understand her, so I want to just leave her and marry another person. Just like how the one you married was complicated, the one who's coming along also will be complicated. The complication is not on. The complication is a result about ignorance. I'll explain it to you. What is complication? The definition for that is ignorance. When you are ignorant of something, that becomes complicated. For example, if you do not know how to bake a cake, the process becomes complicated. If you do not know how to cook biryani, the process is complicated. But a person who knows how to cook biryani, it's very simple. So I'm going to end on this point today. Okay, we are going to study this tomorrow. Complicated. Is my wife really complicated? Is my husband really complicated? Or am I ignorant about that person? That is why I am complicated. I say it is complicated. So let's finish on this note. And I thank you for watching every day, Monday through Thursday. Okay, Friday, Saturday and Sunday I have ministry. We have church. So I teach from Monday to Thursday every day, 10 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Please watch. Please share with others. Please subscribe. This will be uploaded to the YouTube. You can share it with others. Subscribe so that every time a latest teaching of mine come, you will get information about it. Thank you so much. God bless you. Let your home be a place of love and blessings. In Jesus' name, I bless you. Amen.